Hey, hi, hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jesse, and today I'm bringing you a spring book unhaul. I almost just said a spring book haul, but no, we are getting rid of books today. We are not bringing books in. I feel like the last time I did a book unhaul, I was like, this is the last time I'm gonna do a book unhaul, but like, no. I'm gonna keep doing book unhauls until I get my bookshelf to a place where I feel happy with it. I'm still working on curating my bookshelves and getting them to a place where it feels like it represents me as a reader. I don't look at my books as like a trophy anymore. I feel like I used to look at them as like trophies, like I read it, so I must keep it and display it on my shelf as a trophy, as a reminder that I read that book, finished it, and now I have it in its trophy case. But like, I just have rewired my mind in how I want to view my collection. I want my collection to more so represent me as a reader, and I feel like we're getting there, kind of, low-key, not fully yet. Like, I still have a lot more work to do, and even after this book unhaul, I know that there are books living on this bookshelf that gotta go, gotta get out of here. I've got quite a few books to go through today and talk about the reasons as to why I'm getting rid of them. Let's dive in. Where to even begin? I'm looking at my stack down here and I'm overwhelmed. Let's do it, let's do it, let's go. The first book I'm getting rid of is Into the Heartless Wood. I read this book last year after seeing it on somebody's cozy fantasy book list, and I was like, I really want to get into cozy fantasy. That's a genre or a subgenre that I've been really interested in lately, and for a while I've been like wanting to just like hop on the trend and see what it's all about, see if it's something that would really fit my vibe, because like I really like the idea of a fantasy book that's just like so chill. Doesn't have a war aspect, doesn't have darkness necessarily, so I was like, you know what, I'm gonna give that book a try. Mind you, I did not really like look into this book, I did not do the research. I was like, it's on a cozy fantasy book list, it must be cozy. Then I start reading it, and like, yes, the first little chunk of it is cozy, it's got that like comfy vibe, but then there's like a huge shift in the story and it is completely consumed by darkness and chaos, and I would not associate this as a cozy fantasy book in the slightest. I will say, in defense of that person that had this on their cozy fantasy book list, I feel like cozy fantasy, or just like cozy in general, is sort of defined by the person approaching that subgenre. Like, I feel like there's not necessarily like an official guidebook or rule book as to what a cozy fantasy book needs to be. Like, I feel like it's kind of up to whatever you find cozy, whatever you find comfort in. And so the person making that list that added this book to it, this book might have had elements to them that are cozy. So like, if that was the case, fine, but I would not say that this is cozy, in my personal opinion. I think had I gone into this book with certain expectations as to what I was going to get, I would have really enjoyed it. But because I was like, cozy fantasy, cozy fantasy, cozy fantasy, I left it being rather underwhelmed. The next, whoa, that scared me. The next book that I'm getting rid of is How to Kill Your Family. This book should be a guide on how to poorly execute a fantastic concept. I was so beyond disappointed by this book. It was like sitting in a car with somebody who is insufferable and doesn't know how to not have a conversation, does not know how to sit in silence, and everything coming out of their mouth is annoying. I couldn't stand the main character. The story dragged on and on and on. When a book is pushing to be really long, but they're like not adding things to the plot that make it interesting, they're just like dragging things out, and they're pairing that with an annoying main character, that is not a pairing that I myself would like to partake in. Like, count me out, coach. The best thing about this book is the title. It's iconic. It's striking. It catches you off guard. It's not a book that I would go to a cafe and read, because I feel like people would read the title and be like, but the title is better than the book. I said what I said. In fact, I don't think that this story deserves an iconic title like this one. I opened up the door to my love of nonfiction last year, but while there are a few that I love and would shout their greatness for off the top of a rooftop, there are also a few that didn't hit for me or just feel fine. I'm gonna share those with you now. The first one I have here was Why We Swim. This one wasn't like the worst. It was just a fine situation. I didn't feel strongly about it, and I don't feel the need to keep it. It also was one of those situations where it's like, this is me, it's not you, you're not the problem, it's me. I went into it hoping for much more of a like nonfiction book exploring this specific topic. Like, yes, it does explore water and swimming and the benefits of water, but it also has this sort of like memoir feel to it. And at the time of reading this, I was looking for nonfiction books that were like solely honed in on a topic. I didn't really want like memoir-y bits to come through, but that's exactly what happened here. But if you like water, if you like swimming, I would definitely recommend checking out this book, because I feel like it will really work for you. And technically it worked for me too. I just feel fine about it. Next up, I'm getting rid of World of Wonders. I'm actually sad to get rid of this book just because it's so beautiful. Like, it's got this stunning cover, and then there are illustrations inside that I love. I love the art style throughout this book. It really is surface level when it comes to talking about these animals and these creatures that we encounter throughout this book. And it's more so a memoir style book. Like I feel like the author takes these animals and like tries to relate them to her own life situations, which is fine. But again, like going into this book, I wanted a nonfiction book solely focused on these different creatures and different animals, but it really became much more about the author and their experiences. And it's just not what I was looking for. You can still like enjoy a book even if you go into a book with certain expectations, and I did not have that experience. Like I just felt like this book felt very mid to me. That's where I landed with it. I did really like the writing style, and I would say that the intro was really strong and really had me intrigued, but then like just over time it just started to fall flatter and flatter and flatter till it was fully flattened in my mind. World of Wonders, more like World of Flatness. I'm done. Next up here we've got Fuzz, When Nature Breaks the Law. This one actually made me really sad because I had just read Stiff by the same author, which is a book that is fantastic. Like I loved Stiff. It was so good. And then to go from that book to this book that just did not deliver, made me so sad. Made me so upset because it's like, how do you go from this greatness to this? Something so bland and so boring. And I thought it was going to be really interesting because I like the concept behind this book. What it's pitched as is that we are exploring the world of animals going to court, going on trial, and just seeing what that overall experience looks like. But like we don't really explore it that much. Like we definitely touch on it a little bit, but not enough to pitch this as a book that explores that idea. It completely switches gears and brings in other topics. Mind you, it like does in some ways like correlate back to it, but I just felt like the most interesting bit was not expanded on, and then everything else that came after it was just like so bland and boring. There were moments when this book like fell into a snooze fest place, and like that's not what you want to happen when you're reading a book. Next I'm getting rid of Spare by Prince Harry. Now I actually really enjoyed reading this book and learning about Prince Harry and his life as a royal, and then him marrying Meghan and them leaving the royal family. Like I just thought that it was like such a fascinating book. Like I took that tea and sipped that down, but there were times when I was like, bro, we are oversharing. We're giving a little too much detail. Overall, I just like don't care enough to keep this book. I do wish I would have just checked it out from the library, but you live and you learn, you know? Can't be mad at my past mistakes. Next up, I'm getting rid of Zombiekins. I read this as a part of a reading vlog that I did where I read your guys' terrifying childhood books. And this was something. It was really fascinating. In it, we were following a boy who stumbles across this zombie-like plushie at a garage sale. He picks it up, buys it, takes it home, and the next thing you know, this little zombie doll is going around murdering all these other plushies and toys. I never thought I would read a book about a doll going around committing plushie murder, but I in fact did read a book that involved plushie murder. It's wild. There are illustrations too, which I think kind of like made the book. Honestly, like without the illustrations, I'm not sure this book would have been as entertaining and fun. It really brought the book to life. Overall though, this is just not a book that I care to continue to own. I'm gonna pass it on to somebody else who might find enjoyment in plushie murder. Then I'm getting rid of Deep and Dark and Dangerous, another book that I read for that vlog. This was definitely a dark middle grade book, and I could understand why it was recommended. I feel like had I read this book as a kid, I would have been creeped out. Catch me not ever being able to fall asleep having read this book as a wee little one. But there were several aspects of this book that I found incredibly annoying. There are so many toxic adults in this book, and it was so frustrating to see their interactions with our main character, and that was not enjoyable. It added this like irritation layer to the story. Like it just made me irritated while reading it. And then there's a part in this book that just like completely shifts the tone of the story because this other character comes in. I think their name was like Sissy or something, and they are so annoying. Like want to scratch my eyes out annoying kind of situation. And I just could not deal. Mind you, I did deal and I did reach the finish line with this book, but looking back on it, was it worth it? No. Next up, I'm getting rid of Starling House, but not for the reason that you might think I'm getting rid of it. Albeit, I'll be real with you guys, I did just overall feel fine about it, but that's not why I'm getting rid of it. I'm just getting rid of my Book of the Month copy because I already have this beautiful, stunning, amazing, iconic edition from Illumicrate. Why keep this one when I've got the Beyonce version? The next book I'm getting rid of is Where You See Yourself. I'm not getting rid of this book because I didn't necessarily like enjoy it. Like, it was a good time. I will say that I feel like this book did kick off me being like, I need a break from young adult books. I need a bit of a hiatus. But I will say that I feel like this is an important read, and I feel like it could be a very impactful read. It's a book that's really good for people who are in a transition period in their life. If you are somebody who is graduating high school and going into college, this is like the perfect book to read during that transition period. It explores that idea and showcases like the ins and outs of making that transition and all the work that goes into it, and also just like the complicated feelings of leaving high school behind and entering into this new era. So it is a book that I would recommend. It just like felt okay to me. I don't need to keep an okay book. No, I want to keep spectacular books. Mind you, don't judge my bookshelves because I'm still working on it. There's still a lot of books I need to let go of. The next 3 books actually make me really sad because they were the first books in my Quest for Underrated Books series that I've started. I need to continue that series. I have a few books written down that I want to include in an upcoming episode, so hopefully I can get back to that soon. But I'm really sad that the first episode was such a fail that I'm literally getting rid of every book within the first episode. Let's go through the books. Let me talk through my reasonings. First up here, we've got Face. This one has such a cool concept behind it, and I think it does have important messaging because it is talking about like perfection. It's about a world where like everybody is perfect in terms of visuals, in terms of the choices that they make, in terms of just like how their society works, and it does have a bit of a dystopian edge to it. I really appreciated a lot of the commentary that it does bring up and how it does make you think about the society that we live in and what people are doing to achieve sort of perfection, and also just like how some people paint their lives as perfect, but then behind closed doors, like everything is imperfect. But I think some of the choices that the author made in terms of storytelling just did not work for me, both in terms of like character exploration and also just story structure. Like one thing in particular that is coming into mind is this sort of repetitiveness that the author worked in, and the fact that like we see a conversation more times than one, like we see different point of views of the same conversation, and that caused the book to not only feel repetitive, but also like slug down the pacing. Little choices like that just had me not vibing with the book, and I do feel like the author was just like trying to do something unique. I just don't think that it worked well. Next up here is the Hulver Crew. I feel like this is actually one of my favorites to come out of that video, but even still, it just was like, eh. If I remember correctly, I think this book is actually a part of like a bigger universe that this author has. I mostly just fell into this like middle ground place with it. Like there were elements of it that I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed our characters. They pull off a heist in this book, and it's also like a bit of a found family situation. So like those ingredients are always gonna be a good time for me because those are all things that I love. But I also just felt like the progression of the plot and just the writing style in general sort of felt mid to me. The next to go is the Master of Dreams, my biggest disappointment from that video. How do you have a book that incorporates so many fun and fantastical places like Oz and Camelot and somehow make one of the most uninteresting and boring stories out there? This is a guide if you want a guide on how to do that exactly. I really just like ripped this book to shreds. My bad. I'm not even sorry about it though. We're moving into my romance section. I have quite a few romance books that just did not work for me. The first one here is Let's Talk About Love, which I want to be clear, I feel like this book is incredibly important because our main character is asexual, and a big part of this book is their journey with being ace and exploring that identity. So I feel like if you're on that journey, this book could be incredibly important to you. I just wasn't wowed by it. I just felt like I just wanted more things to happen. Next up here, we've got Must Love Books. This book actually made me so sad and a little bit stressed too while reading it. One, it's not really a romance book, despite it being marketed as a romance book. We were basically just like following this girl and her journey in the publishing world, and it gets really messy in terms of like whom she involves herself with and just the situations that she ends up in. It's very much so a situation where our main character is like using other people in order to like get better opportunities, and that was just like hard to read about. I don't think it's like a bad book in particular, I just don't think it should be marketed as a romance book because it's really not. It's so much more about our main character's journey in publishing and also just like her hitting rock bottom. If you like being stressed while reading books, maybe check this one out. Next up, I'm getting rid of Meet Cute Club, and honestly, I'm not getting rid of this book and having like bad feelings about it. I would definitely pick up and read a sequel if this author ever released one because I really enjoyed it. I just didn't fall into like a die-hard love situation with it, and I also just didn't really love like the formatting of the book. It felt like we were only getting a glimpse of things that we needed to see more of. There were just issues with like the scenes being stitched together. I'm just gonna pass this along. And like if the author does come out with a sequel, I'll just get it on like my Kindle or something. Next up here we've got One Day in December. I hated this book. If this book has no haters, consider me dead. I read this for a vlog where I read like 6 holiday romances, and throughout that vlog I just realized that like I am not somebody that enjoys holiday romances. I'm not necessarily opposed to like never trying them ever again, but I just feel like they're so specific and you have to like really be in a certain mindset to read these books and enjoy them. At least that's my experience. I don't know that I will ever put myself through that again. At least not reading like 6 back to back to back, because it just was not an enjoyable experience for me. I would maybe pick up 1 in the month of December, but like 1 is enough, you know? We read 1 and we stop there. We don't read 6 back to back, because I just realized I'm just like not the target audience for holiday romances, and that's okay. I'm getting rid of some of my other holiday romances because again, I'm just not a holiday romance boy. First up, The Holiday Swap. I also read this book for that video. This one felt very Hallmarky to me. Like I feel like I had seen this story before, but I feel like I had seen this story done better. Then I'm getting rid of 2 novellas. I'm getting rid of Noelle First, and I'm also getting rid of True Love for Christmas. I feel like getting rid of these is honestly me just like disinfecting my bookshelf, my physical TBR of holiday romances. Next up, I don't want to make a big fuss out of this one, but I am in fact getting rid of Fourth Wing. I see the appeal. I understand why people enjoy it. It's just not for me, and I'm just not gonna waste my energy on it. That's what I'll leave it at. Next up, I'm getting rid of Speech Team. Another situation where like the execution of the concept just fell so flat for me. Like it has a really interesting concept. It's about this like group of friends coming together to relive their time as a speech team, but also to confront their speech coach and to kind of call him out on some toxic things that happened while they were a part of the team. That sounded really excellent to me, but I honestly just felt so bored while reading this book. I felt like the characters just really didn't bring that much to the table. And then also in terms of personality, like it was just so bland. And the last book that I'm getting rid of, I actually need to find the cover for in one of my bins. But we've got Wild as the Witch. I read The Nature of Witches by this author, which I believe was their debut, and I freaking loved it. So I just kind of assumed going into this book that I would love it, but it does that thing where the romance just completely swallows the plot. And that is a no in my book. Like that drives me bonkers. I'm okay with there being a romance element, but when it just completely smothers the plot, no. Those are all the books that I'm getting rid of. Honestly, I feel like a weight has been lifted off my shoulders. Mind you, I still have a lot of work to do, okay? If you've been needing the push to do a book unhaul and clean your shelves of books that you're not interested in anymore, let this be your sign to do a little book unhaul, do a little spring cleaning, and get in there and just cleanse your bookshelf. Let me know down below in the comments if you've done a book unhaul recently and how that went for you, or if you just need motivation to do a book unhaul, let me know down below in the comments and I will give you some motivation. You can do it. I believe in you. Also, if you want to yell at me down below in the comments because I'm getting rid of one of your favorite books, you're allowed to do that as well. I give you permission to yell at me. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye. That was a weird bio. My bad.